I'm always just waiting for enough time to pass to make sure you guys hear everything because I've had many videos start where it clips off and I'm like, "Hi, welcome back to Now TV Canada," and all you get is the "I am just in" YouTube channel part of my message. So, welcome back to I am just in YouTube channel. I am your host, Jen. I want to talk about the shift, Canadian shift. This is all connected to my work as a writer and what I plan to share this year and what I want to do around the new websites coming. Um, but I want to make sure I make my point clear on how I've become an expert in my message, on what I've learned to know in my heart that is true because of how I was treated and what I experienced firsthand, to talk about where we are in this Canadian shift, what's left of Canada, and to know how to explain what I hope others will learn how to see the way I can so that we can do more together to protect all of us, our families, and our children. So, as a kid, I was put through a lot of weird things, very strange experiences. I was subjected to a lot of anger, bitterness, resentment, bad kids in school. And specifically, I remember boys during normal hormonal changes in our early years where we're supposed to discover that we like boys and boys like girls. And it's not a big deal. It should never be a big deal. It never should have been then about, having feelings, butterflies, when you guys walk past each other. Maybe sometimes the other person's not feeling what you're feeling, but it doesn't ever negate or explain. I'll give the right to have volatile responses about it the way I was treated as a little girl in grade 3. But I can remember the butterfly feelings of boys versus them and how they might be feeling back to me. I can remember having a lot of these private moments and thoughts. And I'm guessing that basically you could only see it on my face because it's not like I went around talking about it. I didn't tell people, oh, I have a crush on so and so, I like so and so. When you're 7, 8 years old, you're way too young to be understanding the concept of relationships, boyfriends, and dating, and any of that adult stuff. You're just a child. But you're waking up and becoming aware that you're a girl and a boy and you're supposed to like each other. So I had many incidences where I had this set of twins. I don't remember the other one, but one of them was named David, and we were in the same school for a couple of years, different grades. One was nicer, calmer, no big deal. Um, but he wasn't the focus, right? And I guess the one that was the focus just didn't like it, couldn't stand it. How he knew, I'll never know. I don't know what happened. Like I said, it must have been just a look on my face. Now, I was not by any means an ugly child. I was a very cute, pretty little girl, skinny, normal, like all of the kids. And I was intelligent. I thought fast. I spoke fast. I deciphered things quickly. I could see. I had a gift of discernment. I had a big heart, a lot of love. I was kind, caring, to a point that the fault was always coming back at me, where that love was hurting me, having it, feeling it, knowing it. And from that, knowing God, knowing He existed, knowing He was real, knowing who the real one was. And this David did not like me having any feelings at all toward him, just didn't like me having any love, didn't like not being able to resonate or understand that love. And guess he wasn't interested in girls at all at this point. So he just didn't like that whole topic or conversation. In spite of the fact that these boys came from very well off family, uh, beautiful homes, the kind with backyard pools and fenced in properties, the kind where the parents would invite like most of the classroom to their home for birthday parties and such. And for some reason, I ended up getting the experience of going to one of these neighborhood suburban house parties where some of these classmates in the same school as me lived in the same neighborhood. And it was just jaw dropping. I'm like, whoa, right? At that age, like these kids live like that. And I'm reflecting with my God upon how could they be so unhappy and unsettled, um, and angry with their wonderful lives, with how hard their parents have worked and how good a lot of these parents happen to be. They're not really doing anything wrong, setting bad examples for their kids in any uh, bad ways. They're not anti-God. They're not teaching the kids to hate or dislike people. They're welcoming us into their homes and having these parties and trying to initiate good, but it doesn't work. It's not resulting in the same positive outcome that you would hope as good parents providing all this for your kids. So when you think about it, obviously there's no home Bible study, right? They're not sitting around the table asking, how did your day go? Let's read from the scriptures. Who wants to pray tonight? Let's work in the kitchen cooking together, sharing in these small things because of the fact that parents work all the time. And so they're not there spending that time with the kids. And so in those regards, there's little things that causes, I guess, a dysfunction or a breakdown. And parents are oblivious. They don't see it. They're kind of happy. They're thinking they're doing great, giving their kids the best. And that's what they're taught they're supposed to do. But these little fundamental things are missing, that makes a difference in who they become. And some of them end up becoming violent and abusive and end up getting in trouble with the law, in spite of how hard these good people worked to give these kids that. Sometimes living in suburban neighborhoods and nice houses with swimming pools in the backyard with two parents that work isn't always the answer. Now, I'm okay with both parents working, but you have to balance the needs of your whole house, your whole family, and what is needed, to make sure your kids' needs are met and that there's no neglect going on there for anyone. Because the second you see some kind of trigger, uh, response or trauma that recycles the same behavior in the house, then it will spread. And for unfortunately, it kept coming back at me at school. Now I was fortunate. I think I just got moved, or we changed classrooms, got to older grade, and the incident with that boy being so angry at me and just always having this rage and "Rah!" in his in his, my direction with his face, um, it went away. It was no longer an issue. But at that same school, you would have the opposite thing going on with boys, where they're out at recess on the playground and they're chasing girls around, doing this whole kiss and tag game. Remember, I'm remembering this from a bilingual perspective, French English school, Robert Browning Elementary School. And I just thought it was odd that kids that young were aware of this whole concept of running around and doing that whole kiss and tag thing. I would try to stay away. I would just be an observer watching from the snow hill in the wintertime. But the point is, it's too much too soon, too much exposure, and trying to teach them they're supposed to grow up so quickly and do all this adulting stuff, but that nobody was monitoring and telling the kids to step back, going, no, this is not appropriate behavior. You shouldn't do this stuff at school. And that's not where it ends. It gets worse. Where these kids on their own time, back in my day, there was a lot more freedom and liberation. Kids wandered the neighborhoods and they went from apartments to townhouses to playgrounds to each other's homes. And the parents were around fleetingly or whatever, but they were never worried about our safety, our well-being, where we were, because it was a time where they thought, everybody believed that you could have your kids playing around in the neighborhood outside. We had block parent signs everywhere and stuff. But kids left to their own will and merits can make bad decisions because they're just children. And it only takes a few things that they observe in their community from a few bad people to create um, a domino effect, a response, a reaction that goes in the wrong direction. Like if anybody watched the movie Radio starring Cuba Gooding Jr., which I just watched, were eyes in tears. But the bad football guy, multiple times before he learned his lesson about making radio go into the girls' locker room, not knowing all the girls were in there. How and why would somebody in the neighborhood who knows there's lots of kids live there would want to set off a chain reaction where these kinds of recourses would happen and that person's not there? So it's like, oh, I didn't do it. So if they were have somebody knock on the door, complete the fifth, I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing to do with me. But it definitely was that person. And so in this situation, see, the kids in this community were exposed to people who lived in those housing communities that were big on adult magazines. And one person thought it would be a funny prank to have a big, huge Bob. I will call it the Bob, the battery operated boyfriend, in the window of his townhouse, 10, 12 feet from the playground where the kids played. And the curtain was closed, so you can't see who lives in the townhouse. And so by the trash can, the big, huge metal bins on the ground, this big, huge mess of magazines everywhere. You can't not, out of curiosity, pick up the magazines, go, what is this? And look at it. And then when you're those 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, be exposed. Suddenly your eyes are open to flesh and all of these desires. And so then you have all this mixed, jumbled responses going on inside of your growing brain and hormones where you're not getting any guidance from parents at home on what to do about all of this. And I remember seeing this stuff myself. But as a little girl, not in a million years, not for a moment, not 1 second of my life could I have ever imagined how little effect or help the people with those block parent signs in their windows would ever have in protecting the life of little kids like me. And it's everywhere all the time. And it's to the point where those block parent signs have now disappeared. Nobody uses them. Nobody has them. It didn't work then. Same vicinity, same community, same housing complex where this stuff was happening with other people that lived around these kids. And somehow these boys got it in their heads, oh, we need to go find some girls and we need to start doing some stuff to get attention, focus on us about being boys and what we have in our pockets that are different than the way they're made. I don't know how or why, but on one day, this would be, I was 8 now at this point. I don't remember if I was still at the same school, but I remember living there and then living in the next building. And there was a connection between that school still. So I might have started off at the new building, still at that school. So we're going to just assume I'm still going there. Robert Browning. I don't think any of these particular kids from the neighborhood were students, at least not in my grades, while I was there that I can remember. But the youngest boy was 8 years old and the oldest was 12. Now I remember the oldest. And so one of the only recourses of self-defense I have is to just remember those names and then say that stuff out loud to manifest as I tell my truth. So Chris Howard was the oldest boy of the 10 boys that came and stalked and haunted and tormented me. Like this didn't just happen once or one day, one opportunity. These kids crowded around me slowly over a certain amount of days, weeks. It happened pretty quickly. It wasn't something that was drawn out as we got older, in the sense of what happened. But because I guess parents were more open to leaving kids alone and hanging out with each other in the neighbors' apartments or whatever they do, On this particular day, my mother decides to take a walk. I remember it. Sunny day. Sun is out, blue sky. It looks beautiful. That doesn't mean it's safe. That doesn't mean the world is kind. That doesn't mean everything is going all right. But people tend to feel good. They feel better. They have energy. They get that endorphin from the vitamin D. She wanted to go and think about life, her life. And she don't take long walks. But there she was, watching her through the window. I could see her walking away from me. And that walk was like flashing my life before my eyes. Because this was the beginning of something that would just lead to more damage and trauma. Because it just never stopped. It just kept happening. These things just got worse. But these 10 boys got into the apartment with me. And they're standing in front of me. And they're all following the lead of the oldest boy in a row so I'm trying to do this from my side. So short to tall. Now the youngest and the shortest one would be the same age as me. He was the 8-year-old. And following his lead, he tells them all to drop their drawers. And my back is turned to the window I just, watched not that long ago. That woman that was supposed to be my mother and my protector, my defender, was gone now, left the vicinity, was behind me, that window. And I'm looking at these boys in the buff. And their things, they're all looking at me. And I'm an 8-year-old, petrified, freaking out because I didn't understand why, as a little girl, I was being put through this. Why am I looking and seeing this? What do I do? Scared. How do I get out of this situation? The door to the apartment is behind them. I have to get past those boys to get out into the hall just to even scream for help. In a community of housing, what America projects would be called in our country, but we had nicer, newer buildings. Smaller country, still building it, but still, it's just for the poorer people. They don't come out of their apartments because it doesn't matter whether you're in America or here. There are some things people are not stupid enough to do. Nobody wants to get stabbed or shot or robbed next. So very rarely do people come out of their apartments in spite of hearing people struggling next door. If you're in luck, somebody's going to care enough to call 911, and hopefully that ends. I had to figure out how to get those boys out of the apartment. I am lucky that no traumatic gang banging, what do you call it, biker, Ron Jeremy world of adult stuff ever happened with those kids on that day. But I can't tell you. I do not remember how it came to an end, how they were made to leave the apartment, how I got them out of there. I would like to think that God intervened because it was beyond my intellectual coping mechanisms at 8 on how to balance who the devil was, who Satan is in this situation. And the lesson that Jehovah God, my God, was teaching me about how to understand and harness my heart and the gift that's in there, in the power of the one he gave me, and the light that lives within me, in my eyes, so that I could always be able to draw that line between whose child I am, right? Whether I'm a child of the dark side or the light. Right? Because the devil is in people, all ages, all sizes, all colors, in all countries. Children who work for him that are from his side or on his side in the dark are all around us. And I talk about the politics. This is our leaders of countries everywhere. Right? If you can't discern, if you can't tell the difference between light and dark, God and him, you're looking at all these leaders and you can't tell the difference between what a real leader is, who the real leaders are, and who they're listening to. Are they listening to God? Are they going to listen to the real God in the end? Or are they going to falter and listen to the other guy? But I vaguely think somehow God brought my mom home, got her back to the building, and somehow managed to chase them all out angrily from the apartment. I think maybe somewhere halfway on her walk, and he had put it upon her heart and pressed her to go home because she shouldn't have left her 8-year-old child, and that you shouldn't leave kids that young alone and try to go for walks that far away, that there's something wrong. Um, so I think it was something of that nature, but it was all such a blur because it happens so fast. Just a brief period of time from when everybody was seeing that guy and his bob in the window for the duration of time that it was there, because it was for more than one day that it was just there. Because I distinctly can remember the block parent sign on the other side of the playground, and it was there, and the bob was in the window. The curtain closed, and nobody knew who lived there. And then the magazines were at the trash can, and it stayed that way. Nobody did anything. It didn't stop. Uh, and to say that Canada is a great place, that it's safe to raise kids here, and that the things that are happening here are fine, and that it's mutual, and that it's normal, or to say that God is good all of the time and that God never makes any mistakes by not developing ways to intervene beyond those little measures where my mom was told to come home and it pressed upon her that walking that far away and leaving a young child that age um, without measures of protection was not responsible parenting. I'm happy that it's still him that was there, but the exposure and the anger that I was witnessing, the attacks that were happening, and the different mixed emotions of other boys that wanted attention from girls, any girls, and it didn't matter. Well, that's just mixed messages, and it's wrong, right? I know now the adversary didn't like that I had any love in me, that I had kindness in me, that I had light in me, that I knew the Lord, right? That I was his child and that he couldn't take it out of me, that he couldn't control or manipulate or damage or abuse all of the children, controlling all of the girls and the women to manipulate the environment and situation so he could get what he wanted. But I can testify to you as I grew up, he never stopped. He's never gone away. It's never ended. I have story after story after story. I have things that happened to me before that day in this particular round of information. But I just wanted to connect that little segment of my life to where I'll end it in a different school on another side of town, grade 5. So it's like literally grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. Now I broke my right leg in the wintertime when I was 9. So that would have been the grade 4, grade 5 fiasco that changed my life. And basically, I didn't go to school for like a year. My mom tried to pull me in a sled now and again when I was wearing that cast. Um, I'm not sure. I think the cast came off, and that's how I ended up at the other school. But in grade 5, there was another guy, and his name was Jason Bear. And he was a lot taller, like growing like a weed, almost like he had the pituitary thing. It wasn't just that he was going to be tall. And again, there was that fluctuation of hormones and fleeting thoughts and feelings that are normal for kids to have that I can remember were there. But again, I didn't go chasing him around. I didn't give love letters or notes. I didn't do anything conspicuous or weird. And again, it's like he could see it on my face or could tell or just knew. And again, he was just all up in my face and angry about it and didn't like it. And it got to the point where he was so adamant on expressing his feelings and rage towards me and wanting all feelings and all matter of love or kindness or my heart to just like stop. Don't beat, don't breathe, don't bleed, don't exist, don't feel. And he came at me in our coat room in the school, where we go when we leave to get our stuff. So it's out of the view of the main hall areas where the kids come and go and where the teachers can see us. And he just went for my throat. And he had me up against the wall. And I'm in grade 5, like 10 years old. And I'm kind of hanging there in a state of shock because I'm trying to process, front load all of this to try to get a scope of understanding on where this kind of rage and anger and what do you call it? What's the word? Vindictiveness is coming from in other kids my age, and specifically the boys. Um, why would you be so offended? Why would you be in such a rage for pretty young girls, whether they become your girlfriend or not, whether it leads to anything or not, to have any feelings and that it expresses on their face a little bit when they walk by you? But it doesn't negate responding to that extent, an opposite contestment on how you are feeling or thinking back about that. So I saw lots of volatility and danger and realized, boy, the girls that end up with this guy, but end up in very bad, unhealthy, dangerous relationships. And I feel bad for the girls that have the children, for guys like all of those ones I just talked about in this situation. But he put me down, he let go. Um, Somehow the rest of the school year managed to pass by, and no other volatile things like that took place. But I don't know. I don't remember uh, how we got to that. Like, I don't understand why teachers didn't do anything about a boy they would already have known has a history of being difficult to deal with and had, temper and anger issues manifested um, in school, period, in general, and not do anything. How can kids be allowed to get away with these behaviors and not be disciplined, not be sent to psychotherapy or facilities where they're locked up, like adolescent treatment centers, where they can be retaught and where they can have Bible studies and prayers and be shown material that would visually help their hearts, mind, and souls rewire itself, recalibrate, and learn how to feel, readjust the difference of what they should be doing and how they should be behaving. But it just shows how dangerous even going to regular public school is. And so I have to say that joining or growing up or being born and partaking in all of the activities as a Jehovah's Witness, that the testament of thinking that Jehovah's plan for us was to go to public schools and to witness and minister to people by being best behaved and living by example and having the opportunities to minister and witness to people because we're in the same public schools. Well, that's a human concept. That's a human thought. That's a person that came up with this idea that thought they're being a genius, saving money on not building your own school system, not providing ways for people to internally protect themselves and what they believe by having our students stay safe by going to the same places, and believing in the same things we believe, practicing what we practice without any danger or risk of volatile things like abuse and trauma that lead to permanent damage that you can't undo when your child's virginity and innocence is taken from them forever. Well, that's not Jehovah God. That's not a good idea. Right? That's not God planting that idea in their head to give them opportunities to minister to everyone by taking away their ability to protect themselves or their right to have a safe place to go to school and live a safe life. Therefore, today, partaking in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and Brigham Young University, and how hard that history of becoming what it is now reflects on who the real God is and how much he's been there that whole time with them as well, has got me to this place where I am forever grateful, thankful that God and Jesus were thinking about my long-term education and how long it would take and when I would get there to finally accomplish the credits I now have, because of how difficult and hard and dangerous life in Canada is for children, girls specifically, in those scenarios where nothing is done to stop these kids from becoming abusers. It doesn't matter if they're 8. It doesn't matter if they're 12. If you're a bad person doing bad things to other people your age or any age at all as you grow, you deserve to be disciplined, punished. This is more than just grounding them, taking away their video games that are violent or TV time or comic books. It's a much more serious thing where they need to spend years under adult supervision of people who are qualified clinically to try and work on them, to find out what triggered it, what set it off, and if there's anything that can be done to fix it, what can be done to fix it, or to make sure these people are permanently segregated from the public system where people can live without risk or threat every day when they walk out their door or walk into a school, on whether something else like this is going to happen again. And in the 10 years that Justin was in office, a little black girl's body was found decomposed like a year and a half after she had been put there, and no arrests have been made. 50,000 people overdosed on fentanyl across this country. 4 women were murdered by a serial killer in Manitoba. And the guy didn't even hide the parts, didn't have to. He literally just put them in bags and shoved them in his garbage can outside of his building. And they were taken away by the garbage trucks and taken to the local dump. And it took 2 years to find him before they arrested him. And in that time that he was doing these crimes, another man was chasing his ex around in the same province, like Winnipeg area, outside, whatever, Portage Prairie, something like that, trying to find her, track her down, because he could never get over it, right? Could never sustain his rage that they broke up, right? That it's over, like over, and that she had gone on with her life and he just had to take another stab at it one more time. And she escaped. So then he does this next thing. He goes over to another house that was full of her family members. Now, I hope that she had others. There was more, that they weren't all there. But it was atrocious to hear that he then killed that entire household of people, all dead. And then no justice prevails. No arrest, no maids, no time in prison. He then takes his own life. Had this mantra when I was in fear of my life, trying to get away from the man I divorced. I can't remember how it goes. All or both, or nothing. Till one or both or all are dead. Nothing changes in his head. So it's something like that. To all or both are dead. One or both or all are dead. Nothing changes in his head. Anyway, I used to say it over and over again to help keep me focused on leaving him, to get out and keep my child, the one we had together, alive, and to keep the abuse toward her to a minimum. And then when this guy killed himself after killing her whole family, I was like, wow, that's like radio repeat. That's like this guy all over again, and realizing that there's so many of them, tons of them like that in Canada, that this country is at the root of it very sick. It's like the Freddy Krueger, son of a thousand maniacs, over and over and over again. And we're overflowing in our prisons and releasing people that are committing violent crimes like this. So it's not protecting anyone. Nothing is working. So it's all the devil. It's all Lucifer, right? It's all feeding out of his hand and working in his favor, and only doing stuff uh, that helps him with his causes of hurting everyone to get power and control, no matter where, how he's doing that. And it's not okay. So I know, as I got out and got away from the last time I saw that guy in my life, right? That guy can never come around me, never see me, never look at me, never exchange words with me. We can never be alone, because those kinds of people don't change. They don't know how to change. And that kind of crime and sin from God is not something that you can use a Bible for and have some Bible studies with these people and think that you can fix and forgive. The devil can't be forgiven. The devil can't be the good guy. The devil is not your friend. The devil cannot rise up to earning his wings and return to heaven and be an angel and have access to the Holy Spirit, or the messages or the meetings that go on in heaven with Jehovah God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. And so people need to stop trying to figure out ways how to rationalize or vindicate or forgive what can't be done. And it's not our place to do so in any uh, light of this. And so trying to get deals with EV cars, battery operated, plexiglass phones, computer watches, all this stuff that is material is not going to save our planet, solve our problems country to country, coast to coast. It's not going to make things safer or better for the people living in it and the kids growing up in it, at least the ones that are left. There is so much more I could go on about in the history of the dangers and crimes of this place. And I will, over time, talk about more of my background in my stories, because this is the only way I can dedicate time in telling the truth and sharing what's happening to me and my struggles in trying to get over that hurdle where I can make enough money doing what it is that I do, that I'm good at doing, where the support should have been to help me financially get to a freedom I've never known, by being able to travel and not have to worry about bills, go on tours and do autograph signings and showcase my work where people would embrace and enjoy it. And so by doing these videos, it helps me connect what I'm doing this year ahead in all of that recording work and my websites, and hopefully finding leads to people who are watching and listening and go, okay, I want to help. I want to be a part of this docu series. I want to be a part of the journey of telling the story. I want to help produce, direct, photograph, proofread, edit, publish, and do this for like nothing, free, as a friend, as a supporter of the story and the journey I'm on, or for minimal prices, whatever. But we can't get anywhere if we keep living in a me world where it's all about me. It's all about self. You'll send out messages, you'll post out messages, you'll put out encouragements, and you'll talk about things that you think makes you sound smart and special. But if you don't stop and take the time to reflect on what people are writing back, what they're sending into you, what they're saying, what they're hoping you see and read and get to know about them, then it's not going to stop the cycle. The devil will just keep roving about like a roaring lion looking for things to devour, and we'll just keep stepping our foot in it, letting him do that. And eventually he'll just keep climbing higher up to the point where you've just lost a whole leg. And when you get to that state of being crippled, then you can't do anything else except sit in a wheelchair. Like what did he say? Elton John said, when you stop moving, you die. And so that's what happens. The crutch, people get uh dependent on the cycle of earning a living, working, buying a home, driving around their cars, but within the same radius. So nobody learns to read, so they don't grow and expand. So this beautiful plan or vision you had for building a better place never happens. So Canada's shift right now needs to be working towards working with Europe and European countries that are 12 years advanced of us, that can help us regrow a future, a place we can look forward to, give a future to our new generations, to where these violent, horrible crimes and endings of death can finally change, because there's hope and people have new direction, new places to go. We need to make new contracts on clothes and all kinds of wonderful things that come from Europe to embrace what we were trying to do and build when we first started. Right? It's okay if it's a little uncomfortable and it feels strange because we're not used to it. If we cut ties with business interactions with America and the products that they were providing only because we decided to be nice, northerly neighbors and make a deal with them. Okay, we'll help you because it helps us. It's closer, la da da da. We can do this. What we were doing before, we had our own sewing factories. People made their own clothes, right? We had our own brands of European heritage and we were happy. We had our own ways of doing things, had our own foods, and we can do it again. So, yeah, man, maybe new things might be a little scary, but sometimes having that little bit of fear is exactly what we need to motivate us to change. That if we don't work together to do this as a people, then that shift for Canada will continue to spiral downward, like I've watched it happen in my lifetime. So don't vote for the wrong people just to vote for somebody and have somebody in office. Create an uprising. Make it clear that you do believe in a God, a good God, a God that you believe in. Have faith that Jesus has got the reins, that he's in control, and that he can fix this. It's okay if we have an empty parliamentary building. It's okay if you have an empty White House. Right? God and Jesus don't need nobody doing nothing in those buildings to save the world. The world was free when God made it. And we were only using coins and trades with our skills in the beginning to survive, right up until King David passed away. And the world was working and everything was fine. He had a perfect system. It was only through Solomon, his son, afterwards, in building that horrible, offensive temple that was supposed to be for God, that the system changed, because he had been given the gift of wisdom and he thought of ways of creating this political system now where people are paying money out from their pockets up to the highest stream, so he can take all that money and do all the stuff he wants with gold and silver and all these other fancy things that God never ended up enjoying. When Jesus came, it was 2 temples later. It was never God's temple, never the outcome of what he was looking for. But you know what building God did accept? The Kirtland Temple, built by Joseph Smith, thousands of years later. And this cloud was with the building, and he was with the people then. And that was here in the Americas, right? There was an immigration fund that brought people from Europe over here to help build America. And some came here and helped with Canada, right? There's no such thing as Canadians or Americans, in the sense that this was all one continent and there was just one nation of Aborigine people who were by right The owners of this place, this was their home. They were not strangers. They were not travelers coming to it. So this fighting needs to stop. And we need to reevaluate what we want to be, what we want to stand for. We need a flag that says, for the commonwealth, as in for everyone. Put down our weapons, put down our uniforms, put down our thoughts of evil and fighting and anger, and come together in peace and love and pray to God on what we can do next, to work together to unify how we can move forward for what's best for both sides, for who we are differently as people, because we're not going to please everyone. We're not all going to get along. We're not all the same. We're not going to like the same stuff. And it's all right to be different. We don't all have to be cut of the same cloth, but we don't have to be fighting about it. We can agree to be different in a unanimously peaceful way under which God was designed to help us figure out how to do that. So keep tuning back, keep watching these, enjoy my poetry books. I will read the first one today. I didn't get to do anything yesterday. I'm going to do audible clips. And hopefully people will buy the poems 99 cents a piece, or buy the books at 10 bucks a piece, or 3 for 25. I have my 8 Mile 2 book coming. I got to print it off with the cover on there. And then I have my friend passing away Celebration of Life book and my Val Kilmer book from last year. That somehow I can use the money from all of this to continue to be the difference that I want to be and leaving my mark in the world. I may not change the world, right? I may not have the answers to everything, but I can do some things that can make it better and safer, and hopefully have a planet where it can live a few years longer than the rate in which we're at now. The people need to research the new products that are being made in too large of an amount. And I recognize the damage that equipment's causing our planet around our trying to find solutions to driving cars and burning fuel, and ships and planes with different forms of that. And so if you help support my books and my writing career, I can actually help with that. So that's where I'm at with all of this. I will be doing my You've Got Mail 2 and 3 YouTube page again to read You've Got Mail 2. So hopefully you guys will find your way over to that. But I just wanted to share thoughts about just that portion of that one story segment of my life, and that it just got worse. So there's no economy to be looking at for a new tomorrow if we can't fix that. Right, let's get our crime under control. Let's find ways to make it safe for people to step outside their house before we look at Apple Watches and what we're driving, as if that's going to solve the car accidents and the drunk drivers, or the people that just shouldn't be allowed to drive because they're just bad drivers. One step at a time, one day at a time. I just needed to share that story before I read my work. So when people are hearing my story, when I read the poetry, they'll understand, they'll have some context because they've spent some time watching some of these videos and getting some of that background history of my life. Now I have to figure out how to go get some dog walking, animal house sitting, other forms of work through my Paul Shake profile, because one thing's certain between our country and America is our healthcare system is not much better, especially now today when a lot of the clinics are closed and you just phone in and you got to find the nearest place you can go to where appointment can be booked, because we don't have enough doctors, and nurse practitioners are just not qualified to be the ones prescribing everything. I have to get refills until there's a medical solution for my blood pressure. and the meds I need to keep the PTSD away, my dreams, traumas, memories. And well, it shouldn't be that way for any of us. We should have a solution. We've had a long time to come up with one. So I hope this helps other people want to do something in that regard. Ignoring the people that are trying to get paid to act like they think they can and are doing something, but it's not. It's not really doing much of anything. Let's do it together. Let's work on our own, what do you call it, reform, our own Christian heritage, because the answer to business first is and will always be God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, prayer. So peace out, everyone. Amen. Have a good day. I got to go and do stuff, and this needs to charge, but I will be back with more. This time I'll just be reciting poetry. Peace out. Bye. Superwoman signing out.